Hi, my name is Khayelitsha. I am coordinator of African Reclaimers Organization, which is an organization that organizes reclaimers or waste pickers. Our primary mission is to improve the livelihoods of those people who survive by picking what others consider to be dirt. Secondly, by making sure that our humanity is recognized, the fact that we are men and women who are working very hard, not stealing from anyone, that we deserve to live just like everyone else, and that we actually perform a very essential service. The purpose of this video is to show how we can use a method of teaching each other called popular education, which actually allows us to reflect on a problem, to collectively come out with solutions for these problems. And it's a method of education that was pioneered by a philosopher and a sociology teacher, Paulo Freire, who basically worked a lot with peasants in Brazil and other people who were fighting for rights to land. And it initially started off as teaching people how to read and write, but quickly recognized that there needs to be a different way of actually approaching communities, of educating, of building capacity. Essentially, the popular education emphasizes the fact that all of us are learners, all of us are teachers, and it emphasizes our humanity and the fact that each and every person has something of value to contribute, and that your value does not depend on your levels of education. Actually, your life experiences are as valid as the next person, and it emphasizes learning collectively together and resolving problems together, making yourself vulnerable together, and basically setting aside whatever personal issues you might have with your neighbors and coming together collectively to resolve whatever it is that needs resolution. What popular education does is that it recognizes the fact that we can only resolve social problems by acting collectively. In this case, if we have a problem of not being able to get access to materials, it could well be the fact that residents are complaining about levels of criminality in an area, and they think that we are involved in criminality. So the first thing that we do in popular education is to recognize a problem. You know, what is the problem? What are we dealing with? What are we dealing with? We look at an issue not only from our own perspective as people that want to access the waste. We also need to look at the issue from the perspective of those that oppose us. What is it that they think they don't like about us? Is it that we don't have uniforms? Is it the fact that perhaps when we go through the bins, some people, leave materials and debt, Is it the fact that people perceive us as drug addicts, as homeless people who are bringing down the value of their property? So we need to understand an issue from all perspectives, all angles, and we basically listen to all the voices within us. We look at an issue and understand, this is what this resident said to me, this is what the other one said. We put it all together and understand the issue. So the first issue is to understand what is it that we're dealing with. The second point that we would look at in this instance is to look at what possible solutions, what are the possible solutions to the issue that we're finding ourselves in. Is the solution perhaps ensuring that residents are safe? But how do we do that? So perhaps the first step in this solution is to find sympathetic residents who can put us in contact with the Residents Association, who can perhaps set up a meeting with us so that we can hear it from them. What are the issues? Once we've identified the problem from the perspective of the other side, we can then start working on a solution. So perhaps the solution in this instance is basically assuring residents about the fact that we have no interest in criminality, and to show them that as a reclaimer, if I steal from you this week, I cannot go back next week, to collect from you. It means stealing from you is against my interest economically, socially, and everything else. So therefore we need to allow people to see our humanity, but at the same time we need to take practical measures to reassure them that even where there's a criminal element amongst us, we can take positive actions. In this case, for example, the solution might well be we all get cards that identify us. Where would you get them? Well, we could get them from the local security company. The security companies are usually happy to know who are the people that are part of the community, because we would consider ourselves to be part of the community. We may not live in an area, but we actually work there. It's our workplace. So we need to protect our workplace. So it might well be that we agree that we give our names, we have cards that identify us. Secondly, usually reclaimers tend to know before a security company if there's a group of people in the community that are sizing up the community that are not reclaimers. So we actually know before the security company. So we could, in this instance, perhaps even identify the danger before it actually happens, because we tend to know more about residents than they realize. We know, who can I collect bottles of expensive gin from? Who can I collect the most plastic from? On which time of the month I need to go to someone's house. I know that I'm gonna get something there because this is a pattern that I've identified. So I tend to know when people are not at home, when they're on holiday, by looking at the waste. So by identifying those kinds of things, we can actually be part of a solution. Once we've found the problem and we've proposed a solution, we are now well on our way to actually being in a position to actually resolve an issue that is impeding us from accessing materials. So therefore, popular education is about looking at an issue from all angles. Secondly, it emphasizes our humanity. We need to show our humanity to others, that we're not objects, we're not what they perceive us to be. And to show our humanity sometimes means that we need to engage respectfully, truthfully, to those people who are really part of our community, even if we don't live there. So popular education is really about having a particular theory, a particular perspective of how we need to be as human beings, and also to practice that. It's all about praxis. Having thoughts about how society needs to be structured, about humanity, about opening dialogue. Popular education is about opening spaces for dialogue, and in doing so, we use many different methods, to teach ourselves how to open dialogue. So it's a very action-oriented approach to learning, because it does not emphasize people's ability to read. It emphasizes experience. For instance, one practical method that we teach ourselves, about certain things, for instance, in this case, access to a space, we could have something that we call a radio play, is one particular method. This is basically methods that emphasize participation. In this exercise, we could be basically putting a group of reclaimers together and saying, look, how do we resolve the issue of access to materials? So we would practice how to approach residents. We would role play certain roles. We would then come together and then present a play to everyone else, which is a fun way of conveying information, whatever learnings we've discovered, which we can share with everyone. It's a very fun based activity. It's not the same as reading a textbook and expecting people to just learn it by rote. Other different methods that we use in popular games could be games that emphasize communication. For instance, where we do a broken telephone, yes, which you basically instruct someone either verbally or through actions, to show someone else. By the time you've gone to the 10th person, 15th person, we try and see whether the same message has gone across. And more often than not, we find that the message is completely lost by the time it actually goes from the source to the second person. So it's very important to emphasize the fact that communication is key. Personal communication is key. Not getting your information third, fourth, or 20th hand is critical to actually to transformation. We need to get information that is accurate and information that can actually help us to resolve an issue. One of the examples of an activity that we can use is, in this instance, discussing COVID-19. We are going to slightly start introducing a new way of learning. Instead of me standing here and telling you what is COVID, we are going to discuss together what we know. And I said that one of the problems with this disease is that there's so much that's different. You go to one person, they tell you, no, this thing is not it's just a flu. You go to someone else, who works in a hospital, they'll tell you, hey, this thing is real. People are dying out there. As we know, there's a lot of confusion in communities about COVID-19. We hear a lot of news on social media. Some doctors say one thing, others say something else. Government says something different. We see messages on our WhatsApp groups telling us something completely different. So we never know. We don't know who to turn to for information that is accurate and that is truthful. So popular education can help us to sift through all of that confusion by doing what? One, by first of all, coming together to collectively examine the source of the issue. Where is this information coming from? Who should we actually believe? And the game of broken telephone is actually a very effective way of actually showing how information is actually distorted from the source to their 1,000th person that actually receive it. By the time it gets to the 500,000th person, the information is completely different. So popular education would emphasize the fact that as a community, we need to pause, we need to stop. We need to examine the issue of how to keep ourselves safe from COVID-19 collectively. Let's look at our own lived experiences. Let's look at the people that have helped us before. For instance, on the issue of vaccines, we now know that hundreds of thousands of people have actually been vaccinated. We'll examine how many of us have passed away, from the vaccine. And we would find that in a community of 400, 300 people, no one can actually point to a person that has done that. We look at the fact that some people that are vaccinated are affected differently by COVID-19, and those that are not vaccinated are affected differently. So the point is to try and say that we are getting information from many different places. It's something that's very confusing to all of us, but we can rely on our collective efforts, our consciousness. The reason why I don't have manuals for you, I am not going to give you materials. Angeke nginikeze izinto zokuthi nihambe niyozifunda kusasa. If uyazifunda ngizokwenzeka. And the love and the trust that we have in each other to look out for each other, to actually find information that is accurate, that can actually allow us to continue living. Popular education is about that. It's about recognizing the humanity in the other. It's about ensuring that we have collective solutions to problems. If we sit alone, worried about vaccines on our own, listening to social media, it doesn't help us. We need to come together as a community and examine the problems that we have, and then find solutions that make sense for us, that actually bring life. As a popular educator, one of the things that we know and believe is that there are no teachers and there are no learners. We all learners, we all teach each other. So one of the most humbling things that I've discovered about people that are poor is that they've been my best teachers, not my lecturers at university, not the books that I read. It's the men and women who sometimes could not even read a word of anything that have been my best teachers. So it is by recognizing the fact that we are all creators of knowledge, we are all consumers of knowledge, and that knowledge is never born out of some individual genius. Now, popular education is something that we will also use, to build ourselves as an organization and to also build the business that we're in. One of the things that we have a problem with, for instance, is a problem of prices, very low prices. How do we solve the problem of low prices? We are the foundation of this industry. So one of our missions as Arrow is to make sure that we improve that. And how we can do it is by actually using popular education, by teaching ourselves how the industry works, by looking out for those kinds of things that can actually help us to grow, to earn more money, to make sure that we're not as exploited as the people that have been. For a very long time, the industry has rested on the unpaid labor of all of us. And I think it is time that the situation actually changes. And we can only change it by coming together and examining the problems that we have and putting forward solutions to those that we need to talk to. So what we are going to do right now is an exercise where I'm going to ask you to write one thing that is making you feel afraid, that's making you feel sad, that's making you feel uncertain. As you go out there to train and to learn from others, just know that you are a holder of a lot of knowledge, but you are not the only one. That there are other people that hold knowledge that you don't have. And there's nothing more inspiring than to learn from others, to learn something new every day. And when you go out, you show respect to people, you have the patience to actually allow them to be comfortable, allow them to share with you of them. This is the key to actually finding solutions. As educators, sometimes we need to make ourselves vulnerable. We need to be the first to actually share those kinds of things that make us vulnerable, that make us ashamed for being who we are, for rifling into people's bins, not wanting neighbors to know what we do. We need to overcome that. We need to show people by living the truth of the work that we do, by not hiding ourselves. And actually, there is a lot of inspiration out there. There's no problem that can be overcome if it is not looked at collectively. It's like a monster that's in front of you. If it's right on top of you, you cannot look at it. You have no knowledge whether its head is on top of you, its tail. But when you have a lot of eyes on a problem, you are able to take a step back together with the community and you can see the size of the problem. Then we can make a decision. Do we start tackling the tail, the legs, the head, the body? How do we overcome this big monster? Then it's not so big anymore. So this is something that will allow you to learn a lot and to actually be inspired, by the gogos that sit quietly on the side of the road. They are holders of a lot of knowledge. We need that knowledge from them, and we can teach each other. That's what we need to do. Let's go out there and actually do what we can to improve the lives of reclaimers.